So tonight is a special night. We have the winners of the 2021 award show with from APA, and we're thrilled to have them. I need to first thank our sponsors, which is Pro Photo Daily, American Photography, Photo Shelter, Archive Magazine, and Epson, where we thank them always for helping us in every which way they can. So this is our APA night, and we have three terrific presenters: Pedro Oliveira, Nathalie Gordon, and Bill Bernstein. And to start us off, we have Executive Director Juliet Wolf-Robin to give us a little bit of an introduction, and then off we go. So Juliet, it's yours.
Hi. Yes, so I'm the National Executive Director of American Photographic Artists. APA is a photo association of professional photographers, mostly those working in commercial, advertising, editorial, entertainment industry. And it's all run by photographers for photographers. So they come up with the programming, they volunteer their time to figure out what kind of information photographers need to do to run a successful business. And we've been around for 40 years. I'm really excited that we have the photographers we have here today. Nathalie happens to be on the APA LA board, which we really appreciate. She's from UK, she lives in LA now. Pedro seems to live everywhere. He's Brazilian, but he's also lives in Portland and Dallas and Orange County. So who knows where he'll be next. And Bill's in New York. And I've known Bill forever, another fabulous photographer who's worked in editorial and music industry and toured with Paul McCartney, but also treats corporate clients like they're rock stars. And we have three great photographers that I really appreciate their being here today. They were all part of the APA Awards last year. The call for entries has started for this year, and we do it by categories. We have beauty and still life and food photography and corporate. So different people can enter the category that fits their work. And then we have the jurors are art buyers, art producers, creatives from agencies. And then the prizes are like, we have a Sony camera, we've got a Sony phone, which is really awesome, which might as well be a camera. We've got something from Wacom tablet, Stella Pro lights, Innovative lights, a kit, and Adobe and Think Tank and Found. So lots of prizes for various winners. So that's going on now. And that's what I want to say. I just really appreciate these. I feel like the photographers we have today also have really big hearts. They're talented, but they're good people. And that's makes it so wonderful to work with them, as a client to work with them, but also to have them part of APA. They represent the best of what we are as an association. So thank you for being here today.
Great. Okay, Bill.
Yes, sir.
You're on.
Okay, that means I have to do something here. Hold on. Hang on. Hello, David Robin.
Hi, Louisa.
Hello, Bill Bernstein.
Good to see your face. Hold on a second here. Okay. No, hold on. I'm new at this. Okay. What's going on here? Okay.
You can do this. We know it.
I can do this.
Come on. Come on.
Okay.
We're rooting for you.
There you go.
Okay. So I'm starting off with the picture that I won the APA 2021 award for. And I just want to thank you, Juliet and company, for that. That was very nice. Just a little backstory. I decided to send this picture in, which I did. And then I called Juliet and I said, there's no way in hell that I'm ever going to win this thing, but I never win anyway. So I'm just going to send this picture in. And we both laughed. And sure enough, she called me later on and she said, guess what? You won. So I guess what that means is that anyone can win. Like if I can win, you can win. Okay. So anyway, so here's this picture. I'm going to come back to like talking more about this picture, but I just wanted to put this up first so you could see it. So my career has been a little different than maybe a lot of other people's careers. I started it out in editorial. Hello? Okay. I started out in editorial. My first job was at the Village Voice in New York City, which was a terrific place to work. They had some great photographers there. They had some great writers there. So I was very happy to have that job. And one day I got asked to go, this is in 1977. I got asked to cover an event at Studio 54, which had just opened up about maybe 6 months before. And it had a reputation for being this crazy, over the top, drug infested, sexual kind of place. It was very hard to get into. So when they asked me to go, I was excited because I'd never been there before. I'm more of a 1960s Woodstock person, headwise. I don't know, hippie, whatever you want to call me. So the whole disco scene, I didn't really understand, but I was interested in going and finding out. And so this is the first shot I took the first night I got there from outside. And there was always a crowd hanging out outside the place, waiting to get in. You'd stand there. There wasn't a line. You would just stand in a crowd, raise your hand, and maybe you'd get in, maybe you wouldn't. And Andy Warhol said that Studio 54 was a democracy at the dance floor and a dictatorship at the door. And that's pretty much what it was. But so this night, this night I went to Studio 54. And at first, when I first got there, there was an actual dinner going on. And it's an awards presentation. And I decided that I wanted to stay when that was over and see what the regular crowd was like, just out of curiosity. So I bought like 10 rolls of film from a photographer and I went up to the balcony and I just hid out. And all the regular paparazzi left. It was just me and like the cleanup crew. And when they started letting the regular people in, I went downstairs with my camera. And what I saw that night really piqued my curiosity, my interest. I'd never seen anything like it before. And it kept me going for like 2 years. And what it was that I saw was this mix of all these different marginalized cultures, mainstream cultures, just all of this gay world, straight world, old, young, all just mixing together under like this one big tent, and it was a party basically with all of these different cultures mixing together. And to go back in time a little bit, we had the women's liberation movement in the 60s. We had Stonewall, which was like the beginning of the gay liberation movement. There was a women's liberation movement. And they all started to pick up some traction in the 70s. And then the disco was a place to go and just party. So all these people were partying, but together in this very unique way that I had never seen before. And this lasted, I would say, from like 1977 till about 1980, when the AIDS epidemic kind of shut things down. So I decided in between my regular work at the Village Voice and some other places that I was going to go see what was out there in New York. So, excuse me, sorry about that. Hold on. Okay, so I started going around to lots of different clubs, and there was like there was open sexuality, nudity, a lot of drug use, cocaine, poppers, which were like things that brought you up. There was a scene happening here that I was very curious about and just kept going from club to club, seeing what was there. This is a place called Gigi's Barnum Room. They had this big net above the dance floor, and these were the disco bats. So I was just shooting away. I was just going from place to place, just to see what was out there. This was a place called the Mud Club, which was kind of an anti-disco at that time. That was where like the Clash, the Police, the Sex Pistols, that kind of thing was happening. It's a little bit of like a parody almost of the British punk scene that was happening at that time. This later became a book that was published by a British publisher. And there were about 5,000 copies made, and it sold out. And it sold for $65. And now if you want to buy it, it's like $2,000. So, you know, it's kind of like gotten pretty popular and expensive. So anyway, after I finished doing that, which I will kind of refer to later, I started, I didn't really shoot at, you know, nightclubs or anything like that anymore. I kind of moved on to other stuff, and I started working for other editorial publications like Elle Magazine, a little bit for Rolling Stone, various publications. This guy, Keith Richards, came to visit me one day. And so what I want to do is show you some of these pictures and just tell you little stories about my meeting these people, which was always a big part of why I want to be a photographer, because I want to get behind the curtain with a lot of people that I admired. And, you know, I was curious about them. And so anyway, so Keith comes into my studio, and before he came in, his publicist said, Keith wants three things. He wants a pack of Marlboros, he wants a bottle of vodka, and he wants a can of orange juice, like, you know, canned juice. And I was like, okay. I said, is there any particular kind of vodka that he wants? And she said, no, but it has to be sun-kissed orange juice. So I thought that was funny. You can laugh. Anyway, so that was what Keith demanded, and he was actually a lot of fun. He came in by himself, no entourage. He was very shy at first, and then finally he sort of opened up and he started telling us a lot of stories. So he turned out to be a really interesting guy.
How much vodka did he drink?
The bottle was almost finished when he left. But it did loosen him up a little bit, I will say. So we're happy about that. This is Ravi Coltrane, who I photographed for an ad campaign here in the city. This is a company that makes the mouthpiece for saxophones, but they're very specially made out of special material. They're crafted in a very special way. You can read it says handcrafted in New York City. And so one of their clients is Ravi Coltrane. I shot several clients for them. But Ravi came up actually to my apartment in Brooklyn here because I didn't have a studio at that time. And I set up my apartment, and I wanted it to look like it was, you know, maybe the Bottom Line, or he was playing at a jazz club, you know, which is why I lit it like that. And when he came in, I had all these jazz records around, like Sonny Rollins and, you know, his father, John Coltrane, and Miles Davis and all that. And I said, because, you know, I like to have music playing. I said, you know, what would you like to hear? And he said, actually, I'd like to hear the Beatles. So we listened to the second side of Abbey Road. And I asked him why, and he said that that's the music that he grew up with, and that he loves that music. So you never know. Another thing I did, like around 1990, I guess it was I used to serve dinners at a place called the Bowery Mission in Lower Manhattan. And it's a place where it's really a men's shelter, but if you're homeless, you can come in and you go to the chapel and you get a sermon, and then you get on like the food line, and you have a place to come in outside of the cold. You have a place to sit down for a while. You have a place to get a hot meal. And I used to have some friends, and we used to serve at the Bowery Mission, like usually on Christmas or Thanksgiving. And so after, like in around 1980s, like homelessness was sort of talked about a lot in the 90s, New York City homelessness. But then it sort of like when the century turned, there was still homelessness, but people weren't talking about it. So I thought about the Bowery mission. I thought, well, maybe I can do something as a photographer to put out the fact that there's still a homeless situation in the city. So I asked if I could come in and set up a little makeshift studio. And after dinner, these people, some of them could come up and I could shoot them. So I did a series of pictures, just trying to get into the faces of homeless people, just to see their faces. Because I know when I walk down the street and I see a homeless person, there's a part of me that just doesn't even want to make eye contact. I just don't want to engage, That's how I am sometimes. And so I wanted to like really look at these people in the face. Another thing I've been doing is photographing portraits of patients for pharmaceutical companies. And I've been working for a couple of pretty big pharmaceutical companies, and they send me around basically the country to people's homes. I spend a day or so with them. I talk about what they do, what their passions are, what their lives are like. This guy here was on a cancer drug, and if he wasn't on this drug, he would have been gone like 10 years ago. But he's doing extremely well. He loves to take walks. He has a motorcycle that he rides. So we spent some time together, went out. It's basically me and an assistant, and I usually bring a flash with me. But, I try to get something that makes the person look comfortable and like they're living their life. And, then there's a little tagline with the drug that they're on.
Yeah, and Bill, you do any research on these folks, or do they give you information beforehand? So
Yeah,
you have
they
a
do.
little bit of a dossier?
They do. They give me a little dossier, and I always call them a good like week or so before and have a long conversation with them. And I get a lot of information out of them. How long, what they're sick with, how long they've been sick, how they got diagnosed, what kind of family they have. Then we get into like what kind of things you like to do. It's a first long conversation with them. So I have a pretty good idea of what I'm doing when I go out there. And I go out there by myself with my assistant. They don't travel with me. I spend some time with them. I don't take out a camera for like the first 4 or 5 hours. I'm with them, talking to them, meeting the family. Then we talk about, possible places, possible locations. Sometimes I'll say, listen, I'm going to go check it out. I'll come back tomorrow and we'll shoot. Sometimes it's right there. It's very, it's very, on the fly kind of thing.
So if it's working at that moment, you do it. If not, you do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I would come back the next day. But generally speaking, I finish it. I get there the day before. I spend a little time with them sometimes, then I come back the next day, and usually I finish it the next day. But I have had to spend another day there, either because of weather or because there was another location that we wanted to go to that we didn't have time to go to. This is, I went down to Mexico City with a hearing aid company called Starkey Hearing Aid. And they're a huge company, probably one of the best hearing aid companies in the world. And the owner of it, his name is William Austin. He's like a real philanthropist, like I've never seen. He's a multi-billionaire, built this company from the ground up, and he could retire. He's like, I think he's about 80 now, but he goes out on these missions around the world and goes to underserved populations. This was in Mexico City, and lets people know through, deaf schools and other places that he is coming. People come out of the mountains. Some people come barefoot. They go to usually a hotel. He has a staff there, and they get fitted with hearing aids, and they leave. Many of them never really heard before. So the two boys on the right there and the girl, the three of them got hearing aids. And I think about how important that is for them, because now they can hear what they're learning in school. so their whole life has changed. So I actually wear hearing aids, and I know Bill Austin, and he asked me to come down on this mission with him. So that's how that happened. This is
Joan Rivers.
Joan Rivers. Yeah, I did this as a. This is actually a video box cover, and it was a workout video, Joan Rivers workout video called "Shopping for Fitness," and so we went to a mall. There was a bit of a production here with this, and we shot this, and I included the extra arm in there. She's got 3 arms just because she could get a little more, hold a little more baggage that way, get a little more of a workout. I shot Robin after he did a performance at the Metropolitan Opera House in New York City. There were 3,800 people there. And I set up a little makeshift studio in the back. By the way, the back of the Metropolitan Opera House is enormous. It's about 5 or 6 times bigger than where you sit in the front. They have elephants coming in there and huge scenery and stuff. But I found a space to set up a backdrop and watched his show. He was absolutely incredible. He had them in the palm of his hand. It was like being in a comedy club, like an intimate comedy club. He was amazing. So when he came back, he was all sweaty, but he was all juiced and hyper. He changed his shirt, he washed his face, came up in front of the camera. I think I put a little powder on him, and he just improvised. And I remember saying to him that, that was amazing. And you had 3,800 people in the palm of your hand. And he did this move. And I don't know, maybe it's in reaction to what I had said. I don't really know, but this was the one that they used on the cover of the video. Then I met this guy, Paul McCartney. Always a huge Beatle fan from my teenage years. So meeting him was a huge thrill for me. And this was the first picture that I took of him. He came to New York. He was starting a world tour, and he needed some PR shots. He needed a shot for Rolling Stone. I think I shot something for German GQ and a few other magazines. But I was hired for the day, basically, to come in and photograph him and the band. And he was doing a show for the press. So I shot a little bit of that too. So this was the first shot, and I was trying very hard to connect with him and everything. And I found it actually very easy. He was very easy for me to connect to. And so at the end of the day, or actually I went back the next day with my 2 1/4 slides in sleeves, and I showed them to him. We held them up to the light, and he really liked him. His wife Linda was there too, who's also a photographer, and she really liked him. And on his way out, he said, "So do you want to come on tour with me?" And what does one say? Of course. So I ended up being his tour photographer for over 15 years after that day. So I got to know him quite well. Here's Paul and the band on the road. My job was basically to just document everything that went on there. The shows, after the show, portraits of him, everything, basically.
Bill, what do you make on a tour?
How much do I make?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I made about $45,000 a month.
A month?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would go out
18, 20 nights of work, right? There's a lot more going on.
It was usually like a night on, a night off, maybe 2 nights on, a night or 2 off, depending on the locale. But it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
I was really busy. When I wasn't shooting, I had to have film developed. I had to go through, contact sheets. And then when I went digital, I was, working on my laptop in my hotel room. I was constantly working. Even if I was in a great place and had a day off, a lot of times I didn't get to see it, you know? So it was a lot of work, but it was so exciting. I mean, it was good money. I mean, as a freelance photographer, to get a steady paycheck, I was very happy. And usually we go out for like 3 months and then come back for a month or two, then go out again. So, and then there was a long period in the 90s when Linda died, his wife died, and he wasn't touring, that I did a lot of other things. But at the beginning of the 90s and then in the 2000s, I was quite busy with him.
Yeah, but I mean, that has to be a dream, right? I mean, that moment where he says, do you want to be on tour with me? I mean, it all stops, right? The clock just stopped for you.
Yeah, exactly. I was and he said it to me so casually, like would anyone say no? You know?
And how come he didn't have one already is like another question.
Yeah, that's Paul. It just happens, you know? And if I didn't work out, like if I went out there for a week or so and it didn't work out, I'd be gone and the next person would be in, you know?
Yeah.
But it just happened to work out. In fact, when I went out to LA after that, I was there for a week or two, and there were other photographers that he was trying out at the same time. So, you know, it was like an audition, you know, and after a while they went away and I remained.
Was it a contract, Bill? Like, I mean, do you get a contract
for
this tour?
Yeah, there was a contract. There was a contract, certain amount of time, certain amount of pay. There was a per diem involved. And there was also like a non-disclosure, pretty heavy duty non-disclosure about what I could say, what I couldn't say. Yeah. So.
And then while you were on tour, didn't you have to print photos to show him?
Yeah, at the very beginning, when I was shooting film, I would show him contact sheets. And when I went digital, which is in 2001, when the Nikon D1 first came out, and I thought, okay, I could really use this. This could actually work. And it saved me a lot of time trying to find places to get film developed. At first, he didn't want to see my images on a screen. He wanted to hold a print in his hand. So I would spend all night printing pictures on my printer. I'd bring my printer and my computer with me and be up till 3, 4 in the morning printing pictures to show him the next day. Because he would approve everything. So every couple of days we would meet, usually in his dressing room, and he would go over pictures. This one was okay, this one wasn't okay. Could you retouch this a little here? Could you do this? You know, so there was a real back and forth. You know, it was a lot of work. This picture was for his 50th birthday, and our Time magazine sent me to the UK with a writer. And this is a picture that I got for that. He has a house in the south of England, and it's the hog mill, I think he calls it. And he actually records there. That's where he did his last album. And this bass used to belong to Bill Black, who was Elvis Presley's bass player. And he died, and Linda, his wife, bought that for him as a present. So you can actually see the little hardware store like lettering on the bottom. It says Bill, for Bill Black. This is a shot I did. This is kind of typical of a shot I would do like while we were on the road. He's writing a set list in a dressing room. And then I was happy to see that his new book called The Lyrics used that picture on the back. Then I photographed John Travolta, and it was a time when he had, after Saturday Night Fever, and after Urban Cowboy, but he was in a bunch of like really not great movies, and he was in a little bit of a slump. And I remember how surprised I was at how open he was with me about how he was feeling about his career and Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. And there's another one of him. This guy is Les Paul, who invented the Les Paul guitar. he invented the electric guitar, and he was affiliated with Gibson. So Gibson, this is his actual bedroom, and Gibson would send him guitars to look at and approve, and he kept them in his bedroom. And after we did a shot, like the first shot that we did, I said, can we look around for another location? And I ended up in the bedroom. I said, what's this? He goes, well, these are guitars Gibson sent me. I said, well, can we shoot in here? He goes, sure. He said, I don't use this bedroom. I sleep in the guest room down the hall. So he's quite, he's quite an interesting character. He made us popcorn, my assistant and I, at like 3 a.m, because he doesn't wake up till 5 or 6. So around 3 a.m, we're still shooting, and he made us some popcorn, and I'm sitting at the dining room table with my glass of Coke on this piece of, this like it looked like an amplifier. And I said, what's this, Les? And he goes, well, it's the first multi-track recording system that I built, and the Smithsonian wants it when I die. And here I am sitting there with my Coke, with a little Coke, ring around it. So very interesting, very, very quirky guy. I was asked to go out and photograph Prince at a club that he owns in Las Vegas called the 3121 Club. That's at the Rio Hotel. And I was working with this publicist who asked me if I could go out there and do this. And I said, sure. And that was pretty much the whole conversation. He performs for 2 nights. So can you please photograph him? And I went out there, and I got there, and I realized that 2 things. Number one is that I should have worn a suit. Like the people around him wear suits. And also you don't make eye contact with him. So I didn't get the memo. So I made eye contact with him, and I had like my jeans and a shirt on. So I kind of got the vibe immediately that I wasn't really, I wasn't dressed for the part, and I wasn't prepped, but it worked out okay. I photographed him for 2 nights. I was amazed. I'd always loved Prince, but I'd never seen him live, and I was like that close to him. And for me, he was like channeling Jimi Hendrix on the guitar and James Brown with his moves. He was just phenomenal. I like doing group portraits. I do some corporate stuff where I pose like board of directors and people like that. And this is an acting troupe that I recently shot, like right before COVID in Brooklyn, Greenpoint, Brooklyn. This is Philip Glass, the composer, and his then girlfriend, Wendy Sutter, who was a cellist. And Philip wrote he was inspired by her. She was his muse. He wrote a piece for her, like a CD worth of music for her. And they were heavily involved with each other. So I was actually photographing Philip, and she was there, and she came and she was dressed and everything. So I took this portrait of the 2 of them. And I found out later that probably within the next few days, they broke up. And, it was interesting because I look at this picture and I can kind of see the body language in there. He's sort of turned away from her. She's kind of reaching out and grabbing him, pulling him in. So it didn't really surprise me, I guess, when I really took a look at it. And then Wendy, during COVID, asked me if I would take a picture of her because she was doing Bach had written like 6 cello pieces, solo cello pieces that she was going to perform like live stream. And she was rehearsing for it, and she needed some pictures for advertising. So we shot this. Berezhnikov owns a studio in the city, and she's somehow affiliated with him. So we shot it up at that studio. So now it sort of brings me to the end here, which is I kind of made full circle. I had an exhibit at the Museum of Sex in New York with my earlier stuff from the 70s. And I noticed I would go there on like a Friday night or a Saturday night, and I noticed they had parties there. And the people that were being attracted to the parties were younger people who, mostly students who were really into the whole, non-binary, gender fluid culture. And so I asked the director of the museum if I could set up my little studio upstairs and just bring people up. So I started doing that just out of curiosity, just to see where it led. And I started that project a couple of years ago before COVID. And I'm still continuing it. I've been to different clubs, meeting people, just doing portraits of them. Again, a little bit like the thing I did back in the 70s, where I wasn't really sure where it was leading, but it was something that I was interested in. And that's what this is all about. And I'm going to start picking it up and doing more now that clubs are starting to open. This is actually the last, I did something a couple of months ago. And this is the last thing that I actually did. And as a result of doing that, I came up with this picture, and this is what I won.
That's great.
Thank you.
Well, I have to say, Bill, everyone in the chat room was loving all those images, and great access, right? I mean, how a moment just happens, and then all of a sudden, you're on tour, but what's really great is still doing this kind of work and still having the juice to do it, to want to do it, and to test yourself and to keep motivated. That's great.
Yeah,
great.
I feel that way. I'm not ready to quit yet. I'm still loving it.
And it's less smoky in the clubs now, right? When you go to photograph people.
Yeah, well, the smoke machine is a problem. They do still have the smoke machines, and anyone who shoots in a smoke machine knows that is bad news. So, but work around it.
Oh, David raised his hand. There. David.
Hey, Bill.
David Robin.
Bill Bernstein. So there's got to be a story behind this shot.
This shot?
Yeah.
Well, his girls came down. They were in character. This was at a club called $3 Bill. And they came down, they were dressed, and they were talking with different accents, French accents and English accents. And they were just kind of like performing around the club. And I have a whole lot of other pictures that I took. And all of a sudden they said, "Do you mind if we take our pants down?" And I was like, "Sure." And I was fiddling around with the camera for a second, and I looked up, and basically, there they were. And I was like, wow. And I shot it, and I have a bunch of these pictures, but they call themselves a bouffon, which is a French word. I guess the word bouffe comes from that. Bouffon drag comedy group. And they've actually performed all over the world.
Wow. Is it mime?
It's what is it? I don't know, David. I haven't seen them perform.
So this is mostly a depth of field issue, I would imagine, huh?
Yes. Yeah. But they've performed all over the world. They were lovely. I wasn't sure whether or not they were okay with me putting this shot out there, so I contacted them, and they were perfectly fine. I mean, I think it covers a lot of bases for me in terms of what I've been looking for as subjects.
But that's really great that you did that. And then you continue to do it. I love that.
Yeah.
Inspirational for everyone who gets tired.
Question. Can I have the question?
Yeah.
Maybe it is funny, but that's the real things or is not? Is it?
Is what?
That's the real penises or is just a fake toys?
Yeah, no, they're not real.
Okay,
Well,
Yeah.
I was wondering. Thank
But
you.
I love that the little one has a gigantic elephant-sized penis.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, very
Okay.
funny.
that's
I love
funny,
that.
yeah.
I love that when I was shooting them, they were in character. Yeah, they just really they were great.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bill.
great.
that
Terrific.
is,
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Great idea. Great
Thank you.
idea.
Thanks a lot.
So Bill, you stop sharing.
All right.
Frank,
Yes, Sandy. Yes, Sandy.
Bill, I just want to say your work is beautiful, fabulous.
Oh, thank
Is
you.
anybody having a problem with sound? You're welcome. This, I'm missing the whole presentation, so I don't know if it's my computer, anybody else.
No, I'm hearing everything perfectly, Sandy.
It
Oh.
sounds like you might be having a bandwidth issue because you're going in and out, so it might be that.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
breaking up for me too.
what should I do? Reboot it?
Turn off everything that's pulling from your broadband. Phones, everything
I-
that's might be pulling from your broadband. And then other than that,
Okay,
And say a Hail Mary.
yeah. And then pay the cable company more money.
All right, let's get Natalie up. Miss Gordon is ready.
How is everyone doing?
Good.
It feels weird.
just got
doing-
FiOS installed today. I'm gonna
Andy?
log off and come back in. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Hi,
Hi.
Natalie.
Hey, how is everyone? So unlike Bill, Bill's got like such a diverse portfolio, and I'm like just so amazed. So thanks for going first. Similarly, though, I started my career in clubs and doing music photography because I just wanted to go and see concerts I didn't have much money. So I was just like, I can't afford these tickets. How do I get to see all the shows? So I would kind of just like work my way in and get press passes. No one paid me, unfortunately, but I got to see all my favorite artists for free. So that's how I started. And then I would shoot in clubs on the weekends so I could save up for a better camera. And then I transitioned into doing hair and beauty when my mum took over a hair salon. So I will share my screen with you guys, and hopefully I've got some stories to tell you. Okay. Can everyone see the screen?
You're
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I don't know if everyone has seen my work, but I tend to shoot with like lots of color, and I kind of do it by accident. I don't really know why or how, but I'm just drawn to shooting lots of color. And how I got into doing hair and beauty was my mum was the manager of a hair salon, and then right before Christmas one year, she turned up for work and the locks were changed. There was like this weird Windex thing on the windows where you can't see through. And she called me and she was like, I can't get into the salon. I'm like, what do you mean you can't get into the salon? And so I told her, and I don't think you're allowed to do this, but I told her to call a locksmith and say the decorators have taken the keys and to just let you in. And they came and they changed the locks and gave her new keys and stuff. And I kind of just helped her kind of like build it back up. So I called the phone company and said, oh, we need to change this number into a new name. So we did that, and then we changed the name of the salon. And then as we're doing all this like essential stuff, I was like, oh, there's no pictures on the walls. And she was just like, okay, well, I don't know where you get pictures from. And I was like, Mom, I'm a photographer. Maybe I could take them. So I kind of bullied her and like bossed her about into like taking pictures with me. So that's how I got into hair and beauty. So my mum would do the hairstyles, I would take the pictures, and then I'd find various makeup artists. And as I was doing that, everyone just was like sending me messages saying, hey, can I shoot with you? Can I shoot with you? And it kind of just went on from there.
Did you start with models or real people from the salon?
I started with friends because my mum's clients, they're like older ladies, so they're not necessarily wanting to be in front of the camera. So I was just like, who wants to get a free hairdo? Come and like be in front of the camera. So that's how I have really started. And then I remember the first agency in the UK they're called Lenny's Models. No one wanted to give me any models. No one was sending any models out. And I was like, please, I just want to shoot, like, I want to practice. I want to work on real models. I don't want to use anyone for Model Mayhem. No offense, but I just wanted, to work in a really professional environment. And Lenny's were like, okay, fine, we'll give you one girl. And after I took some pictures for them, they were like, this is amazing. You can have as many girls as you like. And I was just like, great. So that's kind of how I got into working with models as well. So this image that you can see here is it's an editorial shoot, and we had a stylist on board and models and everything. But the night before, I had a different model, and literally I think it was like at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. She was like, sorry, I've booked an ad campaign. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Which happens, but it normally happens like a day or two before. So you can like get someone else in. So I kind of was like messaging everyone that I knew, and like was on Instagram going, hey, like I've booked a studio. I've got a makeup artist. I've got a stylist, a wardrobe stylist. Who wants to model for me? And so Deja, this lovely model, she was like, I can come in the morning before I have to go to the dentist. I was like, great, I'll see you in the morning. And then I had another 2 models come afterwards. But I had so much fun on set. And I'll jump to the next slide, because the image on the right is my winning image from last year's APA Awards. And it was kind of an outtake. So when you look at the full editorial series, it's got like different backgrounds and stuff, but I didn't feel like any of those images would win an award. And I was like, I think I'm just going to submit something that I like and that I enjoy. And it's one of my favorite images, just because we had so much fun on the shoot. And Deja was great. Like, she can pull a range of emotions, which is sometimes quite hard to get from models. But yeah, this was great. And for some reason I had cans of spray that you can color your hair with, and she came with short hair, and it was kind of like slightly bleached, and I was like, can we spray your hair? And she was just like, yeah, sure, because she was about to go to the hairdressers anyway after her dentist appointment. And I was just like, this is great. So yeah, the image on the right is my winning image, and I really didn't think I was going to win, because like Bill, I never win anything. I won a radio competition once, and it was tickets to go to a club, but I was not old enough, so that doesn't really count. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for my story. What I can do, I mean, I've got like a whole deck of images, so I don't know if anyone wants to ask me any questions, or if there's any specific images that I can just like, click on, and then
You know what? Run through them, and we have the chat room. If people want to ask questions, they can.
okay. All right.
Is most of your work in Los Angeles right now?
Because of the pandemic, yes, it is. But it's between LA and New York. So I have clients in New York, so I go between the two. But
And do you find a difference between when somebody is shooting beauty in New York versus LA, the kind of models or the kind of makeup or the kind of styling that they want? Do you find that there's a difference in what you're requested?
Yeah, for sure. So in New York, I don't know how to explain it, but it is very different in not only the way not only in the way the models look, but in terms of like pulling the shoot together. It's very similar to London. It's like really like go, 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 like I want things yesterday, which is pretty much the whole industry. But in LA, it's kind of, we want things yesterday, but we want it tomorrow as well. And so it's a little bit more relaxed in LA, but in New York, I don't know. I think it feels more corporate, even though I'm not working in the corporate environment. But I think I'm used to that more coming from London. So before the pandemic, I would shoot between LA, New York, and London, which was a lot of fun because I'd get to see all my friends and family when I went home and stuff. So I'll jump to this picture.
Natalie, quick question. The backgrounds are really fun. How did you decide which backgrounds you put in and what type of patterns you used?
Oh, okay. So I photographed it all on a plain white background because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then I decided last minute, I found I can't remember if it's Shutterstock or it was one of those like reference agencies that you can buy like wallpapers and stuff from. So even with this image, I found like a whole bunch of wallpapers that were like geometric and textured, and then I downloaded a bunch and then I sent them onto my retoucher and was just like, hey, can you put these behind these images? And then she did. But the image for the that I entered in for the APA, I kind of just did that myself because I didn't want anything to take away from Deja's expression. So I didn't want to mimic what I'd done in the editorial into my competition image. I kind of just separated the two, which I wasn't sure if it was a good idea at the time. And then I showed it to my best friend and I was like, which image do I enter for the awards? And she's like, well, I like this one. I was like, okay.
Good friend.
Yeah, well, I like all my images, and so I can never really decide what to put in, and it's always like I need someone else's opinion just to be like have fresh eyes on it, and which is I don't know, sometimes I'm confident enough to be like, right, I'm definitely gonna enter this image, but most of the time I'm torn between a few.
Yeah, and I think it's good to get feedback. I have to say, I've noticed in the awards shows when people enter too many that look almost like each other into a contest and you're leaving it for the judge, it makes me think you're not sure. And then I always wonder if the judges if it works against you, because then they're thinking that, like, how come you couldn't decide of these 5? They're almost all the same. Why did you enter 5 of almost the same image?
Yeah, it's very tricky because like as a photographer, I see different things in all my images, even though they're the same. So like everything from the same editorial shoot, I'm seeing so many different things. And so that's why I get so confused and I'm like, I don't know. So yeah, I always
Editors.
send it to my friend. Yeah.
Good to work with editors, right?
Yeah. So I like to shoot really close up. It's kind of my thing. It's been my thing from the beginning. I remember going to a portfolio review and one of the art directors was like, oh, who designed your portfolio? And this is when I had my physical portfolio. And I didn't understand the question. I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, your framing and like your cropping and everything else. And I was like, oh, I haven't cropped these images. This is how I shoot it in camera. So a lot of what I do, aside from the retouching, but like in terms of like working with makeup artists, I do it all in camera. And I remember on this shoot, I said to the makeup artist, put like I need you to go really high up on the eyebrows and like get it really, really orange. And she's like, are you sure? And I was like, trust me, it's gonna look great. Don't worry about it. And I kind of like, it's a bit hard with makeup sometimes to make sure the edges are perfect because you could spend hours trying to make a perfect edge when you can do it in like 5 seconds in retouch. So I always try and get them to get it as close as possible. And yeah, this is the result. This next image is part of my fine art series. And I like to call this a happy accident because when I was working with a makeup artist, we were trying to go for a wet look, and the stuff that she sprayed, I'm not sure if it was just water or something else, but it started reacting with the lipstick and it started fizzing, and she was like, oh my god, it's fizzing. And I was just like, doesn't matter, let's just shoot it. And so we did. And then this was one of the first images I started to turn into a fine art series. In real life, these are 4 foot by 3 foot. So they're huge. They don't even fit in my car, which is quite sad because I'm like, I can only transport one at a time. I can't transport. This is framed. I can't fit them in. But I'm always amazed that when I do have these on the wall, at people's reactions to them, because the last exhibition I did, everyone that turned the corner were like, oh, whoa, like that's it's really something. Like having something that's essentially small on the body is then blown up to like 3 foot by 4 foot. So.
And I saw you sell these on your website. Do you do it through a gallery separately, or is it just when you have a show, or how are you?
So yeah, I have a gallery, Wall Space. They're on Santa Monica Boulevard. They look after my artwork here in LA. And then on my website, I have print on demand. So I don't necessarily house all the prints, but they are limited edition. So once that set is printed, no more. That's it. Let's see, what have I got next?
Pedro has a question.
Oh, go for it. I'm not looking at the questions.
Well, you said you wanted questions, so I was going to ask. During COVID, we went through a drought. So I was doing a bunch of personal work. What inspires you, personal work-wise? What are you doing these days that it's not professional, it's just for yourself?
Well, a lot of my personal work is like getting to know people and working with teams. So during COVID, I didn't actually do anything. I shut down. Well, and then I started to get jealous of everyone like trying to do like these like Zoom video shoots, and then they're learning new skills and everything else. And I was just like, hand me another bottle of wine, please. That's the only way I was going to get through it. But I think it's because I was doing so much before that the pandemic was almost a welcome break. And I don't know how I was doing it before. And I'm trying to almost get back to that level again, but I don't know, it just feels like constant burnout. So I tend to take my time with projects, and I'm working on a portrait project on Brits that have moved from the UK to LA. And I'm shooting it in the similar style to this. So this is Brian Jackson, and a friend of mine runs a record label in the UK. Well, he didn't start off as a friend, he started off as a client. I remember storming into his office very angrily because I found out that Jazzy Jeff was on his label at the time. And I had taken pictures of Jazzy Jeff in a club, and they were using them for like press and everything else. So I stormed into his office like, you're using my pictures without my permission. And he was like, it's not me. So it turned out it was Jazzy's manager that was doing it. And then I spoke to them, and they, shouted at them as well, like, you're using my pictures without my permission. I didn't say you could do that. And I knew very little about copyright and everything else, but I knew they weren't allowed to do that. So fast forward, said friend at the record label, then started to give me like other work, like I was doing EPKs and everything else. And when I moved over to LA, he was like, oh, great, you can just cover all my American artists. I was like, sure. So Brian Jackson here, he lives up in Portland, and I flew up there during the pandemic. Well, it was kind of like the tail end. So this was last August. But Portland was super quiet. And I was really excited to go, but nothing was open. And I was like, oh, this is really weird.
Boy, do I know.
Sorry?
I am in Portland.
Oh, you're in Portland.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was really excited, and nothing was open. I was just like, okay, well, I'll just hang out in the hotel and, whatever. So Pete needed an album cover for Brian Jackson, who's this gentleman here. And he's a jazz musician. I don't know if anyone knows of Gil Scott Heron, but like they worked together on a bunch of like jazz albums and stuff. And I didn't really know who everyone was. And so I did my research, and then I was just like, oh, he's a big deal. So then I started to get really nervous. I found a location up in Portland. I think it was a recording studio. I can't remember the name. but it wasn't too far outside of the city. And it turned out he had just recorded some BBC sessions in the same studio. So he's like, oh, I know it well. I'll meet you there. So when he showed up, he admitted that he was nervous too, and he didn't know how to pose or like what to do. And I was like, oh, okay, don't worry, like, because I'm nervous as well. So between the two of us, you know, we'll get through it. It'll be totally fine. I was like, let's put on some music. And for some reason, I was listening to some Brazilian music because, you know, I'm slightly obsessed with Brazil and I love everything about Brazil. Still trying to learn Portuguese, Pedro. So
That's how we became friends, right?
yeah. So he was telling me his stories about Brazil. I was telling him my stories about Brazil. And then he started, like, you know, playing some bits and pieces on the piano. And I was just like, oh my gosh, he's actually really good. And then I was, you know, setting up my lights and everything. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready for you. He's like, okay, what do you want me to do? And I had just finished watching something with Platon. I think it was on Netflix. And he was talking about how he gets his subjects to be comfortable in front of the camera. And I was like, oh, maybe I can use this. Oh, and then there was something else in the this photographer's playbook on portraits. And I said to Brian Jackson, okay, can you see yourself in the lens? And he was just like, yes, I can. And I was like, okay, so you show me how you want to see yourself in the camera lens. And then he was like, okay. And then, you know, we did a whole bunch of portraits, and this is one of them that's on the actual CD sleeve. And then there's a different portrait that I have. So I didn't put it in this presentation, but it's on my website. Actually, no, it's on my Instagram. It's not on my website yet because I haven't updated it. Sorry. So yeah, and I actually only considered myself to be a portrait photographer after this image, even though I have done a bunch of portraits before this. For some reason, I don't know why, it just didn't click into my own brain that yeah, I am actually a portrait photographer as well as doing beauty and fashion. So thanks to Brian Jackson and my friend Pete for getting me to this realization.
Were you showing him photos as you were working with him that day? Did you show him anything?
No, because it was just me. I didn't have an assistant, so I wasn't shooting tethered. I was just shooting to card, but I had put together a mood board. And so I said, okay, remember the mood board? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. I did show him some images on the back of my camera, but I held off because I wanted him, because I was really excited about these. I was like, I want to just hold off and wait for him to see them on his computer. And then when he did, he was just like, I don't know how you made me look like this, but this is great.
And I was reading, we did a whole profile on APA National. You can read a profile, Natalie. You were talking about you don't like doing retouching yourself.
Yes, no, and I'll show you why. Because look how perfect that skin is. I don't have the time or the patience to sit there and make it look this perfect. I don't know how they do it. Like I tried to get my retoucher to teach me how to do it, and she was very patient, bless her, and I was just like, no, shut the laptop, not doing it. I can't do it. It's too much. And I feel like good retouchers, I'm not sure if they come from art school, but they have a level of like knowing how brush strokes work and like how light and shadows work, and that's how you get the good images. Like there's no kind of blurring of pixels or anything, because you can see all the pores in the skin. I'll show you another one. You can see like the direction of like the way the skin falls under the eyes, and like how like the skin texture on the nose and the forehead is different from the chin and the cheeks, which you kind of need a good eye for light and shadow. And I don't think I have that. I have it in terms of setting up a shoot, but not in terms of retouching. So I don't do my own retouching, sorry. Let's see, what else have I got here? Oh, so I actually learned photography on film, and I'm slowly going back into shooting on film. And this is a project I did on film, And then I did the exact same throughout the same shoot. I shot on digital as well. And I really like how my digital work looks digital and my film looks like film. I don't try to mix the two. Like I don't try to add a film filter onto my digital images, which is what some people are doing on Instagram and stuff. But I don't like to do it. So my digital work looks digital. And yeah, and it's very colorful. And sorry, I feel like I don't have as many good stories as Bill did. Like,
No, you're fine.
Bill took the stage and was just like, I've photographed the Beatles and Paul McCartney and Prince, who I absolutely love.
I'm sure Bill has about 5 or 10 years on you. So, you know, let's
5 to 7.
Sorry, Bill. I don't want to insult you. But that's
your work is wonderful, Nathalie.
Thank you so
I love
much.
it. I love it.
Yeah, so I think someone asked me earlier, like, where do I get inspired and how do I come up with like concepts? It's Pedro who was asking me about when my inspiration is. I get a lot of inspiration just from other photographers sometimes, mostly music, mostly driving in my car, mostly actually having conversations with people. And I think that's why another reason is why I didn't do anything during the pandemic, because I didn't see anyone. I could be out just having a random conversation and then someone will say something and then it will just spark an idea for a photo shoot. And I have to, get my phone out. I'm like, I'm really sorry. I'm not being rude. I'm not texting anyone. I just need to write this down before I forget it. And then I start to build mood boards and then, and then I kind of pull a team together and say, hey, I've got this idea. Are you guys interested in working with me? And most people say, yes. I don't think I've had a no yet, which is good.
And you were talking about the makeup earlier, about having an idea about makeup. Did you study makeup? Do you work with a lot of different makeup artists and get ideas? What is your connection to makeup? Because it's so important to your work.
So I was trying to see where the other images. Oh, here it is. So this is just an idea of how I work with makeup. So I can find like similar reference images, but it doesn't always, what other people have done doesn't always resonate with what I can see in my head. And so I put those together in a mood board and then I go to the makeup artist. Okay, this is the general idea of what I think I want, but you as the makeup artist, can you do something fabulous for me? And they're like, yeah. So I didn't study makeup at all. I just kind of know what I like. And then I'm also learning as well. Like I'm always hovering over the makeup table, like, oh, what's this? What are you using for that? And how do you make this? And I wanted to, I didn't put it in here, but there's another image. Sorry, it was part of this series where the makeup artist, she was also quite new, so she didn't really know like her kit and her tools and everything else. And as I was just talking it through, I was like, okay, we'll just put this together and just put this together, and can you do it like this? And I'm showing like reference pictures, and then I'm going and I'm like, oh yeah, just reduce that line and just increase this bit here, and then we've got everything that I need. So yeah.
Do you work with different people in New York versus LA, or do you travel with somebody wherever you go?
I work with different people because sometimes the clients don't always have the budget to travel, to pay for travel for everyone. So I work as a New York local because I've got places to stay in New York, and obviously at home in London as well. So I have my little favorite cruise in London, my little favorite cruise in New York, and then my favorite cruise here. So yeah, which I love. Any questions?
No, that's great. That was, I mean, you gave us a lesson on makeup and how it inspires you. So that's really terrific. Really terrific. And it's what's nice about it? It's your signature. And in an overcrowded market where everybody is a photographer, to have something that you can own as a signature is nothing can be more important than that, right? You got your signature style. It's vital. It's absolutely vital.
Thank
So-
you.
It's
had a-
beautiful, beautiful work.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
And to chime in, I love it. It's so wonderful.
Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
It's funny because just before I go, I just wanted to share this. I was it's been a bit slow for me this year, and I was having a
Just
conversation.
Natalie, just stop sharing for a minute so we can see you. Big.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. There we go.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks, Claudia.
So I went through a phase of, I mean, it's been a bit slow, and I was speaking to a photo editor, and I was just like, I'm seeing all these trends of all this like soft lighting and like minimal kind of like production on images. I think I'm gonna like change my style. And she was like, don't you dare. That's what people know you for, and eventually trends grow. So stick to what you love doing is basically.
Yeah, that's the most important. And everybody in the chat room is loving your work. Really, really loving your work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, great job. Thank you so much, Natalie.
You're
so
welcome.
now let's get the big man on.
Where is he? Are we waiting
There
for
he
him?
is.
I love Natalie, by the way. We met
Yes, you did a great job.
over a happy hour, and she's more Brazilian than I am. So we had a great conversation. She knows more about my country than I do. Hi, everyone. My name is Pedro. First of all, I would like to thank the APA for the opportunity. I have no idea what they had their minds when they decided inviting me. I would like to apologize to the other 16 more interesting photographers who were on the list who, for some reason, had some unknown food poison, and then got to me to the point that I can't speak to you guys tonight. I have a script, but I'm very bad at following script or giving the speeches. So please, if I have any questions, interrupt me, interact. That makes me less nervous.
We have the chat room for that. So, get started, man.
Sweet. That's what I'm doing. So a little bit about myself. Should I share the screen? Let me just share the screen right here. I was born in Brazil, like I just said. I am a storyteller, pretty much. I went to school of journalism at Portland State University. I was a computer scientist before, and I hate the whole idea of just not interacting with people. So in between journalism, I found photography and started as a hobby, and then I progressed to do photo shoots for soccer moms and kids, and then eventually I got into local advertising, and finally I started doing this crazy thing that's advertised that we do. So if I have to define myself, I'm a documentarist. I do advertising direction. All things is storytelling. Just to brag a little bit about myself, I've shot for Vanity Fair, National Geographic, Forbes, Jeep, Buick. Again, I still don't know how these people decide hiring me. Today, however, I want to show a little bit of my personal work. Some of this work happened to be in magazines, but I guess I want to talk a bit about the whole idea of how I create images, how images are leave my mind and go to the image, the screen that you're seeing. I will start with a Brazilian who actually is worth to hear about. This is a quote from Sebastião Salgado, and say, this picture is not made by the photographer. The picture is more or less good or better or worse in function of the relationship you have with the people you photograph. So my whole process is rather simple. Actually, if I have the chance, if I have the opportunity, when I am on set, or I am on an assignment for a magazine, or I'm doing even personal work, I generally try to sit down with the person, talk for 10, 15 minutes, perhaps more, and break the ice. Because the same way that we are nervous, I talk a whole lot when I'm nervous. So gives the idea that I'm actually am an outgoing person, when truth is I'm very, very shy. So believe me, I am having the hots here while talking to you guys. Because I feel this, I generally try to pass to the subject, try to pass to whoever I'm photographing, that I'm just a person there to talk to them, and eventually just capture the moment. And I think that's, if there's any secret to photography, is forget that the medium that you're using is a camera or a video camera or a pen, and try to capture the moment and narrating that story. Even if it's a one shot that I get, generally, again, time permitting, I have this whole script that I go through and try to narrate and get, as in film, you would say, B-rolls, and tell the story more than just, oh, this is a person, but who's this person? Where does he or she live? What do they do? Just to interact a little bit, like I said, I'm from Brazil. While I was there in 2016, I did this whole project on neighbors. For many people, like exotic, and actually those are just neighbors that I grew up with. The idea initially was obviously getting portraits, but why am I getting portraits from this? So for this this lady, she was 105 years of age, and she went through 2 world wars, and as soon as she heard me walking in the house, she started berating me. She was like, "Why you gone for so long? How dare you stay away for this long?" And I wanted to photograph her, and she was always smiling and everything. And I started talking, and I learned that she was actually quite grumpy up to her 80s. And then I found this picture in which she is actually looking quite grumpy, and she has a big smile on her face. And I think that's just a position of, the older you grow, the more mature you become, the more life becomes more understanding and easier to go. The guy on the left, I believe, is her son. Took care of her up to his 75th year of age. I learned that he passed away a few years ago. The guy on the left was just a person selling rocks on Paulista Avenue. He tried to sell me a lunar rock, which was good for anxiety, according to him. It was a beautiful rock, but I tend to believe that it did not work in my case. This is the same person. Again, I try to incorporate on my shoots the environment that the person is. I shot a whole lot of environmental shots for my personal work. Like I said, I think the faces, the person is important, but where they are is also layers of the same story. So you have the main story and you have the foreground. Where is this person? Why is he there? Why is she there? So oftentimes in my personal work, you will find rather long descriptions or full-blown narratives of who the person is, why I'm doing this, and trying to add and bring the audience, whoever is interacting with the photos, as much information as possible. In my notes, I wrote that Annie Leibovitz has this idea that it's not up to us to make the subject comfortable in front of the camera. I might go to hell for saying that, but I completely disagree. I think this is what we do daily. This is what we do for a living. And most of these people, this is a great example, just happens to be there. I was photographing this dumpster in my town, and I arrived there, and these people were really rattled with the idea of having a photographer there or having anybody who was not part of their group there. And they, for some reason, thought I was law enforcement or trying to check their IDs or something. Then I say, hey, that's now I'm here. And we sat and talked, and eventually one of them happened to know my grandfather, who was friends with somebody else. And I said, oh, I know this kid. He grew up around here. So, like I said, I think the idea of bringing the subject, instead of being an authority, which I feel some of us have this idea that because we have the camera, we are, the name director sounds so pompous, in my opinion, that you're directing everything. I try to actually work in a way that I'm a partner on set. So this is what I have to do. This is my part. This is why you have to do. This is your part. So I cannot achieve my photographs. I cannot achieve my storytelling, my photography, unless you are with me. You are actually doing it. So the shot was quite interesting. These people work for about $2.50, $3 a day, and at some point I asked if there was any other way. Each one had a different story, and asked, do kids work with you guys? And they're all borderline offended that I even suggested they would put their kids to work on the dumpster. Again, this is a one hero shot. I had several, but I feel like if I say so, this is the one shot, even though there's no words involved, kind of tell a story. You can see in their faces, they're hot, they're tired, and again, trying to bring the audience to understand a little more what I'm doing. I believe this is real. Yeah, it says right here. It was actually quite interesting to, even though I'm Brazilian, I've been to Rio only once in my life. So pretty much everything that I know about Rio is through television, it's through books, magazines. So I'm there as the first time that I am in this place, and it's just magical, as everybody says. It's there's so much color, so much pride, so much richness wherever you go. And the big shot, I call it the Lone Baker. There's this guy. I was on the restaurant in my hotel, and across the hotel there was this bakery, and he was working by himself for quite a while there, and it was felt almost like a therapeutic moment for him, like a long shower. The other two I photographed in a favela in Rio. If you don't really know the meaning of favela, it's a slums, what we call it slums. It's a poorest neighborhood. You can have normally their homes are built out of plywood, and generally they are controlled by the cartel, drug dealers. Mortality is absolutely high there. And I walk in with a tourist guide who knows everybody there, and I am excited but also terrified of the idea of being such a dangerous place. And what I found there was actually very, very proud people of their heritage, where they lived, and little to no money. We're talking about making $20 a day, and still they're happy. They're happy. They were the happiest, most positive people I met. And again, feel like a broken record. I attribute this connection to the fact that I just sat there and talked to them, and just let them know what I was doing, and went on and to show that I'm here to capture what you're doing, but not to belittle you, not to show how poor you are, how sad is the place you live in. The result, it's genuine connection between two human beings, which I think as storytellers is what we strive for, to actually have a connection. This is Kauai. This actually, I believe it was published in National Geographic UK, and I was there to photograph terra farms and farmers. If you have ever been to Kauai, it's just one of the most untouched places you can ever visit. They really live within the community, and their work is sustainable. And so I was there for about 3-4 days, chasing the taro farms, and I found nothing but amazing people. Do a little bit of landscape as well. Like I said, I try to bring as much richness and context to my photos without the words. Generally, like I said, I do write, but if I can actually tell the stories before people can actually decipher what I'm doing, I'm a happy camper right there. Still Kauai. Okay, let me see if this thing is gonna work. There you go. And finally, I got you this amazing taro farmer. Lindsay is the leader of the taro farmers in Kauai, and she is as badass as she looks on this picture. They go through floods all the time. She like months before, she had saved her entire farm practically by herself, just driving trucks out of the floods. They have what called flash floods. Hey, you got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and the water just covers everything. And by the time I was there, she was just starting from the beginning again, because the flash flood took everything they had, and it was a great experience to actually just get something. Yes, right.
So Pedro, is this an assignment or something personal work?
Oh, this is mostly personal work.
And how do you find these places? How do you do your research?
So I've realized that reading local newspapers from whatever the place you are going, you can actually get some very interesting subjects and very very interesting stories. So I read a lot of local newspapers. I sometimes look at local festivals, because there are some festivals that you don't even think, like the Fest of Purple Pumpkin. I was like, hold on, what is this about? So generally, that's a little crumb that leads to bigger stories. This particular one in Kauai, I believe I saw a story about a taro recipe somewhere, and I'm like, what the heck is taro? And then I started just looking up, and eventually figured out that Hawaii produces a lot of taro roots. And then I started digging, and I learned about Lindsay, and I just had to cover this, and then I went on my own time and dime, and this very ungrateful assignment that I gave myself to go to Hawaii and photograph. Very painful regret. Istanbul was actually an assignment I did for National Geographic Travel UK. That was actually really awkward, because we had an ongoing thing. And one day I messaged them my pitch, because Nat Geo, they're the superstars, the staff photographers. They're, like almost like stocks that you send the photo and they buy it. And there are story pitches that you just do the story and send to them. And that's where my assignments came from. I would write the story and say, hey, I have this story, what do you think? So one day I sent one story for him, and my email bounced back. So I sent to another editor, and the email bounced back again. And then I messaged everybody in the office, and all my emails just like, oh, this email does not exist anymore. And that was when Disney had purchased National Geographic and dissolved their office in the UK, and that went my connections there. So Istanbul, I was coming back from an advertising assignment in Saudi Arabia, of all places, which again, I still have this imposter syndrome, like, what am I doing here? I'm being paid to do this. So there's a company in Saudi Arabia called Al Marai, which is it's the biggest in the Middle East in agriculture and dairy and meat. And they hired me to spend a week and a half, 2 weeks photographing their facilities. And I did go. I was scared as heck, being a gay man, and everything that we heard. And when I got there, again, if I could tell anyone one advice would be just travel and get to see the place that you are. Because people I'll say that with no doubt, was the friendliest people I ever met. But because of all the politics and the government, you don't get to see that. So it was pretty cool. So this was on the way from Saudi Arabia. And I got to spend 48 hours in Istanbul. And I just hired a private guide who could actually take me to places that would be worth seeing. And I basically named this story 40 Hours in Istanbul and what you could do there. And it's what I say is the closest place in real life that I have ever been to an Aladdin movie. The spices, scammers all over trying to take your money. There's this guy who knew everything about Orange County, and they're like, holy cow, what are the odds? And my guide say, no, there's no odds. He just made it up. He never left Istanbul. I promise you, he never left. This very guy, by the way, that's on screen. And spices and jewelry and food and happy people going and coming. The calls. It was just amazing. More of Istanbul. Like I said, I always try to incorporate a little bit of landscape, a little bit of context to what the portraits are about. More of Istanbul. I love movement. I don't do sports, but I love to capture movements. And I guess it's the photojournalist in me that even in advertising, if you see my work in advertising, which I invite you to do, if you want to go to my website at some point, I don't totally suck at what I do. I always try to incorporate movement, if I'm doing stills, that is, because I feel like it does not have to do aesthetics. I'm always trying to capture some movements on what I do. I love this photo. I generally don't say that I love any of my work, but this I really like because it's so genuine. More of Istanbul. 6 o'clock in the morning, coffee shop. I need coffee to operate. I just drink 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day. So I met this guy opening his coffee shop. There's nobody else on the street, and he does not speak any English. I don't speak Turkish or English well, as a matter of fact. And
Pedro, a question.
Yes, sir.
Did you experience the call to prayer at any time in those 48 hours?
Not in Istanbul. I have a funny story about Saudi Arabia. It's a Muslim country for the most part, and they follow Islam, and they have. I believe that's why you're asking, right?
Yeah, there was a good question from Desiree.
Yeah. So in Saudi Arabia, they have the prayers, I guess, every 3 or 5 hours. If I'm saying it wrong, please forgive me. And I was very concerned. I am always very concerned. If you invite me to your house, first thing I would ask you is shoes on or shoes off, especially if we're in Portland. I don't want to disrespect my host, and I was very concerned in not disrespecting them. So I arrive in this advertising agency. Everybody more or less my age, 30s, 40s, and then the praying time starts, and I kind of panic a little bit. I don't know what to do. Should I pray with them? Should I just go to a room while they pray? And the executive creative director look at me and realizes that I'm kind of panicking a little and says, is everything okay there? And I say, man, I really don't know what to do. And he say, oh, about the prayer? Hey, Muhammad, when was the last time you prayed? And he looked a little embarrassed, like, I don't know, man, 3 years ago. And he went on the whole creative team, and they just didn't practice at all. There was one guy in the whole agency who actually would do it religiously every time they're praying. But like I say, for most part, bunch of young fellows who are pretty Western in the sense that some places we could not fly, so we drove. And boy, were they play Beyonce in that car throughout the entire thing. So yeah, Saudi Arabia was pretty wild. Like I said, I did the advertising campaign, but I wanted to talk about my workflow and my processing. And I think my personal work connects with me because it's just me. It's my idea. Like Nathalie was saying, I do have that too, Nathalie. That little notepad is a digital now, but I wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, like, oh man, that's a good idea. Take note. So I have like hundreds of those that I likely will never put into this world, but the idea is there. So, and this is my last slide. I kissed a camel and I liked it. So I got to see camels in real life. I was really excited about it. This guy on the left, I believe, is actually a camel dealer. And he was very, very interested in selling me this camel. And I had to explain to him that customs and TSA would not like the idea at all. And I had to turn down, but he actually let me photograph, and he had this very serious face on the photo, but he was all smiles, hugged me. I think hug is just like the most amazing thing. It's universal. You don't have to understand anybody's language. It's like the coolest thing that it can connect to people. The guy on the left, cool story too. On the right, he was a shepherd, and he was, just guiding his camels. And I asked if I could take photos. He let me. I got this amazing experience, like Mid Saudi Arabia photographing, and after the shoot, he comes to me and start speaking in Arabic, which I don't speak. And the creative director that was actually on the tour with me told me, says, you won't believe what just happened. And said, please explain to me. And said, he wants your phone number. I'm like, what? And say, yeah, he wants the phone number. So this guy, a nomad guy in the middle of nowhere, takes his iPhone and gives to me so I can put my number, his agenda. And he did call me that day so I could send the final pictures to him. So in conclusion, because saying in conclusion is always fancy, I think photography is just a tool. The camera is just a tool for what we do, which is actually telling stories and exciting people with things we see. Somebody said it, I don't remember who said that. We on the media are in the front row of history. We have the opportunity not only to see history happening, we have the opportunity to report to more people. So I genuinely believe that I just happen to have picked the camera as my tool because it's the one that I know how to handle the best for the time being. But the same story that you tell with a pencil or a pen, you tell with a camera or a video camera. And a core, everyone who picks up a camera is trying to do this one thing, which is tell a story that they see. And they can only hope that the world shares the excitement they have while taking those pictures, the connection that they made. And that, I guess that's my story.
So I just want to say, when I noticed when looking at your website and then looking at your work, how often people are looking at you with such smile, like there's such joy from being photographed by you. And I was wondering, are you feeling that and they're picking up on that and they're reacting to you? Do you think about that consciously to make them comfortable? What is that just happens?
I am a failed comedian. I never use that for money, and I thank God I didn't, because I would be starving. But
I don't think you're funny at all. Just
can somebody mute Frank, please? Thank you very much.
yeah, that's funny.
So in this industry, I realize, if you get guys like Bill who photographed everybody, everything, just like, holy cow. Some people have this get in their heads. And for me, it's just like, I'm not a surgeon, I'm not a firefighter, I'm not a doctor. I happen to take pictures, and I'm grateful that people like what I do. So I I really don't care the environment I am. I'm goofy, and people connect with goofy, and that's a tool that I have and I use.
So Pedro, do you use lighting, or is everything daylight, natural light?
It depends a lot. I am trying to run away from lighting because it depends a lot. If we're talking about advertising, we don't have much room for just implementing our ideas. They have a look. If you're not in advertising, I'm not explaining that. They have a look that they want, and depends on what the look the client wants, you try to achieve with lighting or without lighting. For my my automotive work, for my traveling work, I try to do little light shaping, which would be bouncers and softeners, because one, it's a hell to carry around. It's just a nightmare. If you ever traveled with 5, 6 light heads and systems, I hate systems with all my heart. It's a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. So I adapt to my work. So if I'm not on set, in a stationary set, and I have a crew and I have a grip and I have somebody who actually is going to help me doing it, I modified, no pun intended, I modified my my workflow so I can have only the minimum. So whatever I go, I do have a per photo head, that tiny one, I guess a B10 plus. And did I do something?
No, we now see only you.
Oh, cool. And yeah, sorry for now stop sharing. And I have a tripod and my camera. So these are things that I can carry everywhere, anywhere. And so long, short, not so short. Depends on what I'm doing. I've shot with 10, 12 lights, and I've shot with no lights at all. I had a aluminum foil next to me, and I just grabbed it and I did it. Depends.
What is your Instagram name?
Okay, it's at Pedro, my name, and as in Navy, the world, as in the planet. Yeah.
You know what you do? Just take a second and put that in, and
Yeah,
Natalie, do the same thing, and Bill, put that into the chat room so everyone has it and they can be following you.
Yeah, I just did. I guess I did. Did I? No, I sent Claudia because Claudia is very important.
No, Claudia is the most important.
Don't forget that. I just met Claudia and at least saw her in person for the first time, so I felt very important to have her in my audience tonight.
She's the greatest. Yes.
Yeah. So
and always very good to our projections platform over the years. Always
yeah, she does a great job.
Very thankful to her.
Yeah.
All the time. She's been great.
Mm-hmm. Just to finish, I guess that we're coming to an end here, right? But just to finish, and I don't want to get super political, but if there's anybody who's a decision maker here, please hire somebody with an accent, hire somebody who's a minority. We do a great job too. Some of us. I'm not saying that I do, but some of us. Natalie does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's fine.
You do it too as well, Pedro.
Thank you. I'm fishy now. I realize that I'm fishy now, right?
And Bill has a Brooklyn accent.
So, yeah, I'm Jewish, so I'm a minority also, right?
That's true, right? So okay. Nowadays everyone in one way or another is a minority. But that's great, Pedro. You're 100% right. That's very true. Any other questions? Any other comments? The three of you guys did a great job. Really a great job. And the APA always delivers.
Which, by the way, Pedro, you didn't show the image that won in the APA.
Oh, did I? Yeah, I did. It was in the last. Oh, Jesus, I forgot that. It was right there. I promise it was right there. There you go. This is it. This is the winner image and the one on the left. This was actually for Jeep, and but it was really cool. I spent the entire day with a real family, just being the little fly on the wall, and I got to capture some genuine cool moments and in the Rio family. It was pretty cool. Stopped to buy some strawberries, and Oregon rains a whole hell of a lot. And it was the last week of summer that we had, and everybody was like kind of nostalgic, we got to do this. So it was a great experience, actually. And I am so sorry that I didn't show. I showed everything but the one.
Were you following a layout for this image, or you were photographing different things and then this?
Like I said, I'm always trying to make of my images framed movies, if that makes any sense. I always try to have a beginning, the peak of the story, and an end. So whenever I shoot it, and I guess advertising is getting more and more into it, the library style. So you shoot with a progression, if that makes sense. So there was like the waking up time, which I didn't put in my final product. There's just day on the trip, which is what you're seeing. The arriving, picnic, getting dressed, enjoying the beach and doing surfing, and finally watching the sunset and doing marshmallows. And God bless s'mores, because I love the darn thing.
And this image actually won in one of the other competitions as well, right? Either something personal or off the clock, didn't it?
Yeah, it was an off the clock, wasn't it?
Off the clock.
Yeah. So
it resonates. Different judges, different competition against different images, and it wins again. So
thank you. Unlike Nathalie and Bill, I always think I'm gonna win my contest. Not. It's always funny because you just apply and you don't see anybody, and it's just a portal that you're there, and then there's a message, you won, and I'm like, oh cool, I won. And then you see the quality of the work, and like, holy Jesus, how did I win this thing? It's just amazing. The quality of the work that is out there is just mind blowing. And APA is like honey for bees. It attracts all these big names. So I'm humbled, and I'm grateful that for some reason guys thought it was a great image, and I appreciate that.
Great, that was great, very, very nice. So everyone should know.
Oops. Sorry.
October 5th, we do that again. We do an APA night October 5th for the 2022 winners. So that's it'll be right around the corner. Before you know it, we'll have Pedro back, and Bill and Nathalie, right?
Hey,
and
I'll be hurt.
Yeah. So I want to thank everyone. I want to let everyone know. Last week we did a whole series on the Ukraine conflict, and the reaction has been phenomenal. And if you want to see any of those presentations, you can go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and it's Projections NYC. So there's a body of great work there to take a peek at. Juliet, anything for you to finish up?
Only that it's time to enter the APA Awards. So apanational.org, enter this year. You never know. There's 14 categories. We welcome everyone. You don't have to be a member, but members save lots of money. So join first.
Great. Everyone else, thank you, Louisa, everyone for coming in, Claudia, and Bill, the whole gang. We thank you very, very much. The presenters, you guys did a great job, and we really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.